So I'll just say hello first. Hi, I'm happy to be here. Thank you for the invitation. So we have a few days, precious days. Who doesn't have a phone on them? Raise your hand. Whose phone has been seized? How wonderful. Isn't it nice? Probably already beginning to feel a bit more peaceful. The Sila is sometimes described as morality, sometimes described as virtue. The way Thanathananan describes it, my main teacher in Thailand, is that when we keep strict ethical standards, the result is that virtue blossoms in the heart. I think that's a very beautiful way of understanding it. It's, in Buddhism, do good, avoid harm, purify the mind. So it's not just what we do, it's what we don't do. When we make a commitment to harmlessness, we're not going to kill beings or be violent towards beings. This is an expression of metta, restrains the irritation, aversion, the hatred, root kilesa. When we commit to not taking that which isn't given, we're pledging to be a trustworthy person. And those around us can feel safe. We're not going to take property of others. With the being sexually responsible, we're talking about the 5 precepts, but in this retreat, 8 precepts, giving people that safe container, understanding that people won't be trying to see you as an object of desire, and committed to being circumspect, giving people the opportunity to explore the more spiritual aspect of their being. The human situation is a very interesting one, I'm sure you've noticed. Somewhere between heaven and hell, somewhere between the ghosts and the demons, the devas, the brahmas, all these mind states that we have. When we keep the ethical precepts, we're making a commitment to stay within the container of what Lord Buddha described as being genuinely human. A true human being is someone who has the 5 precepts as their foundation. And then skillful speech and no lying. So when we understand in Lord Buddha was liberated from ignorance and delusion by having deep, profound insight into truth, deeper truth. That's what Dhamma is. It's the ultimate reality in truth. So if we are deceitful or if we lie, we make obstructions to being able to see truthfully, clearly. So this precept, if it's the 5 precepts or 8 precepts, trying not to be harsh in our speech also, and not frivolous, not gossipy, and but definitely not lying or not being deceitful. The intoxication one, again, intoxication feeds delusion, and the 3 root kilesa, greed, hatred, and delusion. We don't want to make more karma with delusion. We have a lot already. But so when we keep the ethical precept not to intoxicate the mind, then we're giving the mind a chance to become more sober. And with that sobriety comes greater clarity. With sobriety, clarity, when we train in meditation, as the virtue, as the ethical precepts as our foundation, then more stability of mind can arise. That's when we're able to have insights, see the body and mind and the world more in accordance with how they actually are, rather than the deluded way of grasping at these things. Not eating after midday is largely, it's to simplify life. There's a lot of effort goes into cooking food and buying groceries and washing dishes and all of that. So when we contain it to a half of the day where meals are allowed, freeing up the other half of the day to not have to be engaged in that time-consuming activity. But the other thing is it does also lend a sense of lightness to the body and mind. And you'll notice if you have a big meal, tend to feel a bit sleepy, a bit groggy afterwards. And if you don't have an evening meal, tend to feel quite light and bright. The not sleeping on a high and luxurious bed, simply supporting the body in having enough sleep, not too much sleep. And then so if the bed's very comfortable, when you wake up, it's very comfortable, you don't want to get up. If the bed's not so comfortable, you wake up, you might have a slightly sore hip, a slightly sore neck. It's not so comfortable to keep sleeping, so you get up. So this is our foundation. We have this commitment to ethical precepts, and then there's also practicing noble silence and giving up the portable devices. This is giving others an opportunity to turn inwards. The way we are in ordinary normal life, when you kind of feel like you have to be ready to talk to people, you have to be ready to respond, relate, navigate relationships. It affects the mind in a certain way where the habitual way of perceiving it as a self is always kind of ready to go. And we're trying to have insights into not self. When we practice noble silence, we're able to put that down and allow the mind, particularly in meditation, to have experiences of spaciousness where we're not creating a self in a world with a past and a future in relationship with others. The container of noble silence on retreat is giving you permission to come inward, truly be in the present moment, experience what that's like. And hopefully, when we don't feed the self-view, if we don't keep feeding it with speech about how I feel, what I think I should do, I shouldn't do, that person should do, that person shouldn't do, when we stop feeding it, it gets lighter, and it's like Lord Buddha says his teachings are for people with a little dust in their eyes. When we're not feeding a sense of self constantly, we are washing some of that dust out of the eyes, making it possible to see things more in accordance with the deeper reality. So self-view is a conventional truth. We do have conventional reality, but it's not the ultimate truth. And so we're giving each other an opportunity to meditate and notice particularly three characteristics: arising, staying for some time, and ceasing. So anyone who wants to develop wisdom, the briefest, most direct way, easiest way to understand that is notice the three characteristics. Because if ever anybody has a liberating insight, it's into one of those. So we notice your breath. Each in-breath comes in, stays for a while, leaves, impermanent. Next, there's an out-breath, leaves the body, another space, another in-breath. So with every breath, there's a birth, staying for some time, cessation. Then there's a space. That space itself has a birth, stays for some time, ceases, another breath. Similarly with feelings that you experience in your body, One of the other characteristics that we can observe is dukkha, unsatisfactoriness, sometimes described as suffering, more correctly explained as unsatisfactoriness. But there is a thing called dukkha vedana, painful feelings, and there's sukha vedana, and these are both also subject to impermanence. So if you are able to be with your breath meditation, for example, consistently for a period of time, probably notice some feelings of tranquility arise, some feelings of serenity. In the beginning, it's often just a few moments. That's a sukha vedana, pleasant feelings. You sit for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 35 minutes, 40 minutes, you've got some knee pain, got some back pain, got some shoulder pain. That's the dukkha vedana. But when we're trying to give our awareness to knowing the feeling of the in and out breath as the foundation, anapanasati, but we're also aware of these other feelings, and we notice the way there is movement and change and flux within the feeling, that there's no solid knee pain, there's no solid unchanging back pain. It's all constantly moving around and changing within inside the feeling. There's a lot of movement. So we'll do some breath meditation. And the insight, of course, is if a person sees anicca arising and cessation, arising and cessation, cessation in particular, the feeling of being a self, a solid self, can disappear for a period of time. And the mindful awareness knows the characteristic of anicca, impermanence. When that feeling of being a self, grasping at things as being solid, isn't in the mind for a period of time, then the insight is not self. This thing that I've been grasping at as a solid, unchanging, permanent me, body, mine, isn't. It is a body, but it's not me, it's not mine. So we'll just do some breath meditation. Generally, I recommend that you be aware for the first few minutes of the feelings at the nose, chest and abdomen, the whole body of breath. And then be aware as you breathe out, abdomen, chest, nose. After a few minutes, you can then choose to be aware of the breath in just one of those localities if you prefer. But the reason I like to encourage people to start with a fuller, broader experience first is that it gives the mind something to do. If we're coming from a situation where we've had to be thinking quite a bit, and the mind will tend to be a little bit scattered. So with breath meditation, we're gently encouraging the mind to come inward, inclining the mind inward, so you give it a bit more work to do first. Aware of the feelings at the nose, chest and abdomen. And the in-breath, aware of the feelings of the abdomen, chest and nose. In the Thai forest tradition, we're often using these syllables buddho, and one can use this in different ways. In the very beginning of the meditation, I encourage people to use the whole word, breathing in, gentle mental recitation, buddho. Breathing out, gentle mental recitation, buddho. The reason we do this is we're just using a little bit of thinking to help restrain the mind from thinking about other things. So you're aware of the entire in-breath, buddho. Aware of the entire out-breath, buddho. Nose, chest, abdomen, buddho. Abdomen, chest, nose, buddho. aware of the full body of breath, entire in-breath, aware of the entire out-breath. If you find it, if you have the habit, train yourself to be aware of the breath in one of those areas, over the tip of the nose, upper lip, or the chest, or the abdomen. You can be aware of the in and out breathing in that more localized area. Still being aware of the beginning, middle and end of each breath, knowing the feelings involved in breathing, moment by moment. Giving interest when thoughts arise, trying now in meditation retreat to relate to thoughts differently, seeing a thought as just a thought, trying not to grasp it, trying not to be led on to the next thought and the next thought, allowing the thought to cease, giving the interest to the feeling of the breath, and using these syllables, breathing in But, breathing out Do. Lord Buddha, the awakened one, enlightened, liberated, that is Buddha. With Buddho, we're training in awakening, training in clarifying our mindfulness. And breathing in Put, breathing out Do. Simply aware of the breath, the natural breath. Each breath with its beginning, middle and end. Space, beginning, middle and end. Breathing in Put, breathing out Do. It's also good to check our attitude a little bit. This is the Chittanupassana. We're coming to increase our efforts at meditation. We don't want to be too willful. Coming from a busy situation, it's okay to ease into it. You want to have a firm but gentle effort, aiming for consistency over the next few days. So there's some kindness, some gentleness, as well as determination, and just an interest. We want to understand this body-mind situation more accurately. It's a natural inquisitiveness. Is it true what the teachers say about breath meditation? If I give my interest to knowing each in and out breath, does the mind become peaceful? You can experiment, be interested. Sometimes there's some dullness, some sleepiness. It's okay to open the eyes for a few moments, let some light in. Breathe, take a few deep breaths, gently waking the mind up. Similarly, if there's a lot of thinking, take a few deep breaths. Aware of the in-breath put, aware of the out-breath do. When there's thinking, simply aware of the thoughts, trying to loosen our grip on them, not being sucked in by them. Thought is a thought, arising due to conditions, staying for some time, ceasing. Giving the interest to knowing the breath. Just 10 more minutes to go of this session, first meditation session. Simply aware of the breath. Breathing input, breathing out.